It's Thursday, January the 26th, 2017, and this is your Barbados Today evening update. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Thanks for joining us. We begin the news with the burning issue of salary increases for public officers. General Secretary of the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations, Dennis DePisa, says little progress has been made in negotiations with government, and he wants the process speeded up.
I'll be hoping that the Ministry of Civil Service and the authorities would give the necessary instructions that can ensure that we can see some light at the end of the tunnel, so that our public officers who have been patiently waiting would welcome, of course, the increase, bearing in mind that they have endured a lot. There has been the rising cost of living. There have been the imposition of several taxes imposed by the government over time. We know the economy has been tight, but we have had, based on what government's own submissions, that when we attended our last meeting, there was a position put that while Barbados is below the global performance, the country has nonetheless seen some improvement between 2015 and 2016. And we hope that in light of that particular assertion, if I would put it that way, that things are making an upward movement, that we can see some benefits being provided for the public officers of this country.
Now, C2SAB, the island's umbrella trade union movement, is meanwhile warning that employers' reluctance to consult with unions on matters affecting workers is creating a climate of distrust, frustration, and hostility. President Cedric Merrill told the same news conference this morning that such a climate was bad for resolving disputes and differences.
The Congress is therefore calling for the turning of a new page in 2017. A page on which we shall write that we are resolved to respect the role and function of trade unions and staff associations by responding promptly to correspondence and telephone calls from the leadership of unions and staff associations, by respecting the function of union leaders as they endeavor to make representation on behalf of their members, and by genuinely engaging the leadership in an effort to resolve differences and minimize conflict.
A Minister of Commerce and Trade, Donville Innes, has assured Barbadians there is no need to fear about fuel prices being determined by Sol Group of companies if it gets the go-ahead to buy the Barbados National Terminal Company Limited. Speaking yesterday at the launch of the Platinum Motors, Innes debunked recent comments made by Chief Executive Officer of Rubis Caribbean, Mauricio Nichols, that Sol would be able to control prices as the single owner of the oil terminal.
The Minister of Commerce is the individual who determines the price of fuel at the pumps and the price of bottled gas in this island. And for the past years, that minister has certainly established a mechanism to do such. And we consider certain recent import prices, the various sets of markups, and the conditions, and advice is given by the Ministry of Energy, Department of Commerce, and therefore, even with the sale of the oil terminal, the authority to determine prices at the pump lies within the ambit of the Ministry of Commerce. But I say that, but you know, the danger in that comment is that if prices increase next week, somebody's going to call and curse me, having now said that I am the one responsible for doing it. Of course, when the prices fall, you're also free to call and say thanks.
An expert in diabetics treatment says Barbadians are displaying high rates of complications from the disease and the entire country is at risk. Diabetologist with the Maria Holder Diabetes Center, Dr. Diane Brathwaite, also says an increasing number of young people are being seen at the facility.
There are a lot of complications, People are having a lot of visual impairment, a lot of blindness, a lot of loss of sensation in the feet. 1/3 of the patients that we saw over the last 3 years had loss of sensation in their feet. Okay? In terms of kidney disease, we're talking about 25 in another cohort. We had 30% of the patients that we were seeing had impairment in kidney function. So that's a flag kind of warning there. Okay, also we're seeing the young age of onset of diabetes. I see people with type 2 diabetes who are 17 years of age. 17 and 18, these people, as my father was saying, they have another 80 years to live, you have another 90 years to live. So it means that they have a much longer time, that they have to take really good care of themselves to avoid complications. Another point, diabetes is not necessarily being diagnosed early enough. And so that means if we know, first of all, I think in Barbados, we're all at risk, okay? So whether you have a family history that you know of diabetes or not, we're at risk, full stop. Okay, if 20% of the population has it, everyone is at risk. That's my theory.
Dr. Brathwaite was speaking at the first Oscar Jordan Symposium at the Queen's Park Steel Shed last night. The acting president of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Edward Clark, has come up with a list of recommendations for boosting productivity in the government sector. Speaking at the first Chamber Business Luncheon for the year at Hilton Resort yesterday and in the presence of Prime Minister Francis Stewart, Clark suggested that adequately resourcing the Barbados Revenue Authority to have an efficient system in place.
Businesses need a faster clearance of goods through customs. Green should mean green. Allow the public to make payments to various government agencies online. Use of technology to access up-to-date information on the progress of applications at the town and country planning offices. And the fast tracking of investments over $50 million through the Business Facilitation Unit.
In sport now, the combined campuses and colleges Marooners have chalked up their second win in as many games on day 3 of the Super 50 tournament, which was played this morning at the Windward Cricket Club in St. Philip. Playing against the composite ICC Americas side, the Marooners were asked to make 182 to win in their 50 overs. They scored 184 for 3 in 45.4 overs, therefore winning by 7 wickets. In more sports news, Roger Federer beats fellow Swiss Stan Wawrinka 7-5, 6-3, 1-6, 4-6, 6-3 to reach the Australian Open final and stay on course for an 18th Grand Slam title. The 35-year-old will face Rafael Nadal on Sunday if the Spaniard beats Grigor Dimitrov in tomorrow's semi-final. The Swiss, returning from a 6-month layoff to rest his left knee, last won a major at Wimbledon in 2012. He's the oldest man to reach a Grand Slam final since Ken Rosewell did so at the 1974 U.S. Open at the age of 39.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
God, these papers ain't selling at all. Get your paper. Only $2.25, get your paper, miss. Look, take it, I can pay for it.
Barbados today, all the way.
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In regional news, concerned by police over an alarming number of child abuse cases in Trinidad and Tobago, police say over 3,000 cases of child abuse have been reported in less than 2 years. The most common is sexual abuse.
Startling numbers of children being abused in Trinidad and Tobago. At Wednesday's police news briefing, officers from the Child Protection Unit said from when it was set up in May 2015 to December 2016, the Child Protection Unit has investigated more than 3,100 cases. This breaks down into 986 cases in 2015 and 2,122 cases last year.
The most prevalent matters investigated is the offense of sexual penetration, followed by sexual touching.
Police say 591 cases were resolved last year, and 271 cases were resolved the year before that. Some 722 cases are before the court. In cases of sexual abuse, police say the most common perpetrators are people the victims know quite well.
I would say the families, people related to these victims.
Between May 2015 and December 2016, 775 girls between ages 12 and 16 were abused, the highest number of cases in all the age groups. And for boys, that age group was 6 to 11, with 260 cases reported.
And on the international scene, President Donald Trump has decided he will seek to pay for the wall on the US's southern border by imposing a 20% tax on imports from Mexico as part of a larger comprehensive tax reform plan. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said the comprehensive tax reform package Trump and Republicans are looking to put together will include taxing imports from other countries, like Mexico.
I think when you look at the plan that's taking shape now, using comprehensive tax reform as a means to tax imports from countries that we have a trade deficit from, like Mexico. If you tax that 50%, $50 billion at 20% of imports, which is, by the way, a practice that 160 other countries do. Right now, our country's policy is to tax exports and let imports flow freely in, which is ridiculous. But by doing it that way, we can do $10 billion a year and easily pay for the wall just through that mechanism alone. If you think about what a border tax on imports from countries like Mexico that we have a huge trade deficit does, that's really going to provide the funding. But the other net positive that you have to realize is that through the wall, not only do we secure our border, but I think we're going to save additional money that we would have had to spend on tracking down illegal immigrants and on immigration. So it's actually a huge win for the American taxpayer and for American security when you look at the kind of plan that's coming to fruition right now.
Since then, both President Trump and his Mexican counterpart, Enrique Peña Nieto, have canceled their meeting scheduled for January 31st at the White House. Trump says it would be better to call off the meeting because of Peña Nieto's insistence that he's not paying for the wall. The Mexican president, on the other hand, is demanding respect. And that's news and sports, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals or screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you, as well as Channel 99 on Flow TV and Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic evening.